hazardous waste event summary of July 18th. Justin, we would like to present you with a certificate of special recognition. For what? Well, I'll explain it to you. Surprise. Yeah. Thanks.
You would have dressed up if you.
Justin, the Board of Commissioners would like to present you with this because of your meticulous planning and management of the household hazardous waste program. You've been responsible for executing annual events where hundreds of tons of hazardous materials have been disposed of properly. Justin has led the charge with his dedication and passion of helping our residents who have access to convenient, cost-effective recycling services that improve the quality of life in our county. Cumberland County Board of Commissioners would like to thank Justin for his commitment and service to our community, presented this 14th day of August 2019 from the Cumberland County Board of Commissioners. Justin, thank you for all your service to us. Thank you very much.
I surprised him.
That was the point.
Surprise face from front.
Surprise. Take couple pictures. Nice, man. Good.
Justin, you have anything you'd like to say?
No, I really don't expect praise. It's very much appreciated. I like to get the job done.
So we recognize that this is your passion, you're always on top of things, and I know we really appreciate you doing your work.
Thank you.
All right.
A lot of hard work and planning, and we know, went into that. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Justin.
Yep. See you later.
While you're ahead.
Now you're on deck.
You may ask for that back.
That's all right.
We will now get into the discussion of the hazardous waste event that was held July 18th.
So you have a handout. So just a quick summary for you. We just wanted to brief you on how the first event went. It's the first time under a new format where we split a larger event into 3 smaller ones, and we implemented a fee to really try to make the program sustainable moving forward. So just a quick summary for you. You have a pie chart there that shows the breakdown of the types of material and the weights that we receive. Basically starts right at the top, 12 o'clock, 782 for aerosol paint, and then goes clockwise around. What you'll notice, obviously, is by far paint was the predominant item. Matter of fact, if you add the aerosol paints in, I think over 25,000 pounds of the 32,867 paint. Any questions on the breakdown of the material?
Does it surprise you at all that we don't have pesticides?
I was surprised at that. I think that's a higher percentage of paint than we typically get. So we have an event coming up Saturday, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I was a little surprised by the large amount of paint that we received.
The odor oil, I guess most of the garages take.
Yeah, even advanced auto parts, Walmart. We tried to advertise in the past, we don't take that because we need the other outlets, and some still sneaks in people. Sometimes I think people just like a one-stop shop. They have more items.
There's many people change their oils too. I do. You change yours?
My tractor, yeah.
Track.
Justin, the propane, I know it's a very small piece, but what is that, propane tanks?
Yeah, we take up to 20 pounders. So it's predominantly the 1 pound with a little camp grill up to the barbecue size propane.
The vendor just takes those away.
They do. Matter of fact, they always extract, if there's any propane in it, they'll extract it and
That's
use it.
wonderful.
Yeah, and then the steel gets recycled. Because we're piggybacking on a Department of Ag contract. Department of Ag picks up the cost of the pesticides. Just to remind you about that. Most importantly, there at the bottom, I tried to give you a summary of if we would have done this under the old format versus the new format. Cost is the same. You can see we brought in almost $9,000 in user fees. DEP will give us 50% of the difference if anyone collects fees. So bottom line, their solid waste fund, we've seen a reduction to the fund, the impact of the fund. And with our sponsorship we get from advanced disposal of $20,000, we're on pace to pretty much cover the cost of the program, which is what our goal was. So, looks good after the first event. Well, I'll show you some pictures here. On the back side, so every customer got a receipt. At the bottom of the receipt was a invitation to take an online survey, which communications helped us with. Very positive responses. As a matter of fact, even better than the electronics recycling. You can see 91% thought the online registration process was simple. The other 9% registered by phone, so we actually had 0% didn't agree or did not think it was good. High percentage days out inconvenient. Staff was courteous and helpful. They understood what materials accepted. Surprisingly, the fee they didn't balk at the 30 cents per pound. 95% thought that was reasonable.
Even day up, we're out there interacting with each of the customers. No one complains. And typically, you go with electronics recycling on any given day, you may get one or two people that don't like the fee, but for the throughput we had on that day, we didn't have any complaints.
48% of people responding. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
A nice feature of our online registration program is you can capture an email address, which I then use to communicate directly with them. And I think that went a long way in helping get a higher response rate. After the event, I sent out an email saying, hey, by the way, just a reminder, there's a survey and our numbers for these other clients.
The logistics too, I think you sent the email out ahead of time, asking people to come right at their time, not before, not late. And it was amazing to see the people you're talking to in front of the happy email, that they read that. So I think that sign-up tool was really a good lesson learned for us this time. It works really well for us, and it's a good way to communicate with the residents.
And probably tied to that, thinking the fee's reasonable, I did hear quite a few comments that people had come to previous events where there were long lines, and they seemed very happy to trade convenience for the fee. They saw that as a benefit, even having to pay, not having to wait in a long line and be able to move through quickly. Then at the bottom, GIS helped me put together a little chart. We captured zip codes of our customers, and then we looked at we knew the weight by zip code. So you can see where the material was coming from. And in my opinion, basically generally follows population levels. So I was happy to see that too, that it was spread out across the county.
This is really good data, and not even just the results of it, but the availability of it. So again, it's a testament to the thoroughness that is put into this. I will say, I was I guess you were really chugging people through this. It was very efficient. Surprise.
Hot day.
You guys did it.
So we have two more. We have one this Saturday and one in September. We obviously want to see the results of those.
Fill up yet.
Or Saturday's
Saturday's
Saturday.
bill.
Very happy with that too.
And I forget, do you start the registration for the third event just before it or well in advance?
Well, it's been open the whole week.
It's all open, so if they can't get in this time, they do have the option to sign up for the next one. Right.
That was filled in quickly though. It was-
Third is filling up.
Yeah, 1st September. It's going quick.
back to you when we have even more data, and maybe with some ideas on how, moving forward, continue this approach, tweak it.
I'd be curious to see if this holds true.
Yeah, I will too. We'll look at each one individually. I do have a couple pictures I'd like to show you. Unfortunately, the day didn't start the greatest. The contractor was involved in an accident on the way to our site, which delayed him a little bit, and they got set up right at the last minute. A couple cars showing up 15 minutes before we started. And oh my goodness, what did we create here? And it's never good when your supervisor looks like this. So they're going, these cars are waiting, they're doing our last motion. We're sweating bullets, but it went all uphill from there. It turned out really well. Once we got in the rhythm of getting people through, so we had 4 lanes, and right, you can see right there, we're getting people through so quickly, we really didn't even have a line. A lot of the antifreeze motor oil, flammable fluids get bulked in these drums. Paint gets stacked in boxes. Spray paints. Let's see. Vendor provided shopping carts, so it's worked really well. Take the cart up the car, get the stuff in the cart, and we get it over to the scale and get it weighed. So.
Lots of stuff.
Lots of stuff. Just think what's really probably truly out there. There's a lot of more. I think that's about it.
We have trustees helping us again, so they've been really helpful with the electronics recycling. They helped out breaking down boxes and keep an eye on inside the bar floor. So again, I think they're just such a valuable resource for us out there.
That's great.
Keep our costs reasonable and provide the help they do.
I think a couple of things. Forward too, so,
Couple photos.
yeah.
Good.
Just one Steve Hoffman actually working, so.
Steve?
Oh, yeah, we need,
One better one.
yeah, we need that. Yes. So that's a quick summary of,
Did anybody, complain at all about having to drive to Carlisle? I mean, from what I can tell here in terms of where you got the most pounds from, looks like you have pretty good turnout from the West Shore.
we did. I didn't hear any complaints.
Yeah, that's good. Well, it just goes to show you that we have a lot of people who are conscientious in terms of doing the right thing, getting rid of the hassle, the hazardous waste that we have.
I agree with you. There's a lot of people that care about this and want to do it certainly.
So this is pounds. Do we have a breakout of the number of customers?
We do.
Okay, eventually, whenever
Yeah.
it's all.
Matter of fact, they made me a couple different maps I chose to show you. I can send you the other maps.
Yeah, just when we report out the rest of the results, that'd be good to know.
We even did some normalization to see how the number actually compared to the population of the municipality.
Right, unproportional.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else, Justin? Any other questions, comments for Justin?
Nice job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you, Kurt. Our next topic is the PAFR, otherwise known as Popular Annual Financial Report. This will be done by our controller's office.
your time and interest in this summary of financial results. These are really your results. I understand how we're going to be talking about. It's a pleasure and a joy for Bill and I to put this together because we have positive results to present. So Bill's going to cover the first half of the report that he puts together. I'll cover the second half.
And thank you for allowing us to come in and present the PAFR. This is our 16th year of creating the document. It's an in-house production. Mike and I are mainly responsible for the content, but there are many people such as Lisa Weaver who coordinates the cover, our internal audit, do what they do best and review the work that's done. We coordinate with the county departments or offices for the interesting material. For instance, we got the cover from our communications team member. And we'd be remiss if we didn't mention that neither the CAFR or the PAFR would be successful without the partnership with Dean Best in the finance office. The PAFR is geared toward a multitude of readers. It's easier to read than perhaps the CAFR, which is reserved for more sophisticated uses, such as bonds. On page 1, this is a letter from Al, basically prefacing what's going to be the content of the document, saying where it's coming from, how it's being presented, and where, if you want to get a copy of the CAFR, you could reach out to by email or by phone. The second page is a table of contents and gives us an opportunity to throw a picture in about the county. This one's of Laurel Lake. It's taken from a drone above, showing the community stacked up on the shoreline. And it gives you an idea what Cumberland County's about, where it's located at, and some of the features of the county. And obviously the table of contents are there telling you what's ahead. The structure of county government is the elected officials. And we do this, we did present how to get a hold of your local elected official in the county, along with a phone number and email, and some interesting statistics that go along with each row office. And Tammy Shear, she gets us up to date photos of everyone, so it's not out of date. Now on page 5 and 6, we dive into who we are as a county, and it brings to light some statistics. The first one is the population growth since 2010. Although last year we may not have been the fastest growing, we're the second fastest growing in the state behind Lebanon. We are at 6.8% over the last 10 years, which is a good indicator. And not only that, but our median household income is the highest out of the region. Couple that with the next graph of unemployment, that being the lowest in the region. So we have good paying jobs and our unemployment rate is low. And if you look at the very bottom, it shows that our house prices are second from the highest. And then just a little brief glib there about a commute to work. It's tied with Dauphin County, it's the shortest commute in the region. Now, the PAFR, it's really designed to show a very summary level view of our finances, which we stick in the middle of the document. And I'll get some highlights here. For these financials, they do include something different than you're normally maybe used to seeing. Capital assets are included. Long-term liabilities are included, including pension liability. And it shows a view of 3 years, so you have an idea of what's trending. And One of the trends over the last 3 years is a reduction of long-term liabilities by $10 million. And our net position, which is another term for fund balance, but it's on full accrual, is increased by nearly 19 million, 18.8. The biggest takeaway for our change in net position statement, our net activities position, is the net position increased by 3 million last year, and grant and expense revenue, or grant and expenses have increased by 10 million. That can be correlated, the increase in grants, increase in expenditures. And then there's a breakdown of how those expenses relate by activity, 46% being heating services, and you can see the breakdown on the graph. On page 9 of the PAFR, we go into some major initiatives. It's a brief discussion of what we saw may be important for people to understand of what's going on. One of the county initiatives was the Maslin and Lear Brownfield economic development, and the use of a financial district to use tax revenues to fund infrastructure. The other was the self-insurance for healthcare benefits. That was a major initiative. And our ongoing streamlining of our criminal justice system in order to control the jail population using electronic monitoring and other alternatives. The last slide I'm going to present is page 10, and it breaks down the real estate dollar and how it's being used. 75 cents going to local school districts, 14% coming to the county, and the remainder going to between the library system 1 cent and local municipalities. And then we look at how that translates into spending at the county, and it's this last graph, which is a per resident spending. That looks at each department and the expenditures that are occurring in it. It offsets any incoming revenue to get to the total expense, net expense for that department, and then it divides it by the population. So it kind of gives you an idea of how much is being spent by a resident basis. And if it's a positive number, information management typically wouldn't get any revenue or much revenue at all. So it's basically the cost of the department divided by the population. Whereas maybe the recorder of deeds, they have a lot of fees coming in, so they have a net surplus, which would be a negative on this graph. So it gives you an idea of where your money is being spent and maybe what's being offset by revenue. So I'll field any questions on my section, or we can wait to the end, and it's up to you. But at this point, I'll hand over the mic to continue.
I'd like to make this a dialogue as well, so please interject, ask any questions, ask for clarification. Just interrupt me. The last count is comparative data on how our operations spend from a fiscal standpoint compared to our neighbors. Finance does a like-sized county analysis that you're familiar with. This is focused just on our neighboring counties. The graphs at the bottom of the last half of the document compare just our third-class neighbors as opposed to all of our neighbors, which is generally indicated on the graph at the top of each page. Before we get into it, just to provide important context for evaluating the information I'm going to cover, Lancaster County, at the top of page 11, is the relative size of each county in terms of the population. That's relevant because most of what is presented on the following pages are on a capital basis to make them comparable. It's a way to compare apples and oranges, set everybody on a similar basis. Lancaster is over twice the size of Cumberland in terms of population, so potentially economies of scale there. I say potentially. Take a look at that here and there in some of the graphs. York County is a bit less than twice the size of Cumberland County. Pretty significant. Dauphin County is approximately our size. They're just 10% larger than us, and of course Franklin, Lebanon, and Adams are significantly smaller. So I'll start with the comparability, comparative metrics, the credit rating in South Central Pennsylvania. Cumberland is AAA. The other Lancaster, York, Adams is rated AA. Dauphin is single A, and the others I can't find information on publicly. So we do very well. What's most notable about Cumberland County is the length of time that we've maintained the AAA credit rating, 11 years, which is very notable, and you should take great pride in that. That's due in large part to your fiscal policies and adherence there too. I like mentioning that the U.S. lost its AAA credit rating back in 2011 from one of the 3 credit rating agencies. So in the
They
sense,
won't ask us for a loan now, are they?
yeah, watch how much you give them, I guess, in that sense. But that's notable. So it sounds kind of mind-boggling if you step back a decade, but to say we have a higher credit rating than the U.S. government. I'll flip to page 12. Compare real estate taxes. You can see from the graph at the top of the page, Cumberland County is the lowest on a per capita basis with real estate tax revenue on a per resident basis. In a sense, this can be looked at as a leading indicator of spending because typically we raise taxes in anticipation of changes in your budget structure, your cost level going forward. And Cumberland County has historically maintained, if I can, first place in this rating. And by the way, I was taking a look, kind of looking for on the internet for some information to talk about on this, and I typed in Cumberland County tax rate. And one of those .com websites, I don't know what it was, I didn't recognize it, but it described Cumberland County as having the lowest real estate tax burden in the state. So that's quite notable when you're doing a generic search and it just happens to pop up. And not controllable by the county, nobody wrote that here, but it's good to have that reputation for residents. Our residents, people considering locating their businesses, et cetera.
Is that date correct on the top, 2017?
It is. Thank you for mentioning that. Speaking, that is not available at the moment.
Okay, that's what I thought, just wanted to know.
Yeah. The award for this document, it has to be filed by June 30th of any given year for the following year. So, but that's the deadline, coincidentally, is the same deadline as all the counties have to report. So typically, you just can't report it after the last day of the year. Round it out. So
That's right. Thank you.
that's a good question. Looking at the comparable counties or similar size in South Central Pennsylvania, graph at the bottom of 12, see Dauphin County has a very flat line across the top, very high tax revenue per resident. Cumberland County went from 166 to 207, maintains by a comfortable margin. The next lowest on a per capita basis, York County. No, I'm sorry, Lancaster County is just above Cumberland County in higher rate. And then York County spiked up starting in 13, 16, and 17. And they're headed up, interestingly, approximating Dauphin County by trend as one of the highest rates. They had tax increases for anyone interested of 9%, 14%, and 13% in 2016 and 2017 respectively. So they jump up. And you'll see in their spending, they also spiked up in their spending. So, like I said, this is a leading indicator. Their spending jumped up fairly rapidly the last couple of years. The next page, page 13, reliance on real estate taxes to fund county programs and activities in 2017. I think this is a measure because it shows the resourcefulness of turning not to the local taxpayer, but to other outside funding sources and fees, for example, user fees, that sort of thing, federal government, state grants, what have you, that are available. So it shows a certain resourcefulness. On this measure, it's kind of hard because this is from a business type, so this considers all revenue for the whole county measured as a business. So it's hard to move the pendulum very much. Cumberland County, though, started the decade, if you look at the graph below, started the decade as the most resourceful, is the word I would use, at finding on the end of local taxpayers, and ended the decade as the most resourceful. And kind of in between the years in the decade, jostled with, be careful, York County for between first and second place. But we see in 2016, with York's additional large tax increases in recent years, they forever left us the first on that measure. The next page, page 14, general fund spending per resident. Doesn't require a lot of explanation as to meaning. Of course, that's where all of our taxes go. And this, our subsidy comes out of the general fund. Our local tax dollars are spent within the general fund, either by direct expenditure or subsidy and program. So that's the significance of this measure. And on that measure, Cumberland County has perennially been the leanest in terms of operations. The comparative chart at the bottom of the page on 14 shows just that. Interestingly, the gulf between Cumberland County and the average of third-class counties in south central PA grew from $131 per capita at the beginning of the decade to 157. That's a favorable differential. It's growing, so the pack is kind of leaving us, if you will. It's been a challenging decade with the opioid. Of course, Cumberland County has additional burdens on the court for the additional judge and other programming, children and youth. So that's a notable accomplishment. You know, and we all suffer together, all counties. Our response has been economical and efficient, I'll say. Page 15, compare county full-time staff ratio. I picked this measure because salaries and benefits are the single greatest spending category for county governments. So it's important, I think, to be aware of how each county stands compared to its peers, to be aware of opportunities, things that others may be doing well or better. Is it a red flag for a county? If everybody looked at it, and I think it's wise to be aware of this. Cumberland County has always fared well in this regard. There's some interesting, if you look at the graph at the bottom of page 15, there's some observations that shed a bit of light on the relative ranking of Cumberland as compared to some of the other counties. First, let me say the average full-time head count of all counties in the region is a full 1/3 higher than Cumberland. Again, this is on a per capita basis, so one might expect there will be similar, since we all face the same challenges, the same mandates, the same programs, we operate the same programs. So 1/3 higher, or rather we're 1/3 more efficient, is very, very significant and a notable accomplishment. Lancaster is always rated the lowest, ranked the lowest, the most efficient in a sense on this, and as a credit to them, looking at delving into their reports a bit deeper, Lancaster. In fact, shed 64 positions between 2008 and 2017. You'll find, with the recession, the market crash, the challenges that all counties had, all governments had in Pennsylvania during this decade, that there was some economizing. But what needs to be understood with Lancaster is they don't have a nursing home. So if you equate Cumberland County to Lancaster by removing Cumberland County's backing out Cumberland County's nursing home contingent of full-time employees, you actually come down to a 2.9 full-time equivalent per 1,000 residents, which bests Lancaster by 0.2, which I think is quite good. And one may also expect that as governments get larger, remember Lancaster, the other governments here are, as a class, larger than Cumberland County, there might also be an opportunity for efficiency. But yet, as the smallest of the group, we still best in terms of efficiency of personnel. One other thing I want to have to beat up on anyone, Dauphin County has no nursing home, so their 5.4 is exceptionally high given the fact that a nursing home takes hundreds of people. Here, Dauphin County is still way above, almost, in the realm of twice the employee count as Cumberland County. County debt, page 16. I think everybody's aware here that we rank low. I've had this graph in every single report since we started producing it. Our debt load is exceptionally low, economical. That helps with our tax rate, and relieves our debt service from our taxpayers annually. And our debt load on a per capita basis has decreased markedly over the past decade, despite the burdens we've had on this for a facility during that time. Otherwise, from $254 burden per resident to $164. And then finally, on page 17, I'll start on the county's finances. And they're strong. I don't do comparatives on this, although I do have the figures from some of the other counties with fund balance. Cumberland County has only the third highest fund balance. Other counties are though more hand to mouth in terms of York, Dauphin, and Lancaster getting a much higher spending level. So although both York and Dauphin have relatively slightly higher fund balances, they represent a much smaller component of their annual budget, and then therefore Cumberland County is more protected, give you guys a little more wiggle room in bad times, and with major capital expenditures, to consider it's another tool in the box that isn't so as much available to some of the other counties in the region. And I commend you for engineering that. So in summary, this is kind of a certificate of special achievement for a Board of Commissioners in the form of a PAFR report, but I thank you for your time and attention, and well done being here with us. Are there any more questions?
Anybody got a question? Jim, Karen? The good news is I can't find any bad news.
Turn it over to Robert Ross.
It's something commissioners can use throughout the year to brag over how great Cumberland County is.
It's a very useful report, obviously. I've seen this over a number of years, and it just gets better, just in terms of what's in it, but how it's presented. So I think it's one of the things we've seen in public life in recent years is there's much greater focus on transparency in government. And a lot of people talk about it, but this report really helps people realize that and understand good, but just as important is the fact that members of the general public can use this, along with our annual strategy and budget document, which I believe we started incorporating our narrative section of the budget a year or two after this was formed. So I think this county can be very proud of the fact that we take transparency very seriously, and no one really has an excuse to not understand what their county government is doing between these two fine documents. We make it very clear how their money is being spent, and the different challenges that we face and how we respond to them. So hats off, of course, to Al and your staff for a fine job of compiling this. The good news in the content also is it's worth noting that that goes far beyond any one individual or three individuals, or it really is a protracted effort put on by a lot of people in a lot of different departments. As commissioners, we try to set the tone for how we want things to function. We control a lot of it, we control all of it, but there's a lot of good credit to go around too. People who work over a long period of time, years, within departments to help us realize the final results that you're demonstrating today.
It's easy to follow or lead or fall to the back of the pack on any of these measures. It's on the flip side, it's very hard, it's hard work to maintain a first place ranking consistently in all these high level measures for a decade. So that's sort of the challenge.
There's a lot to be proud of here. There's a lot of folks who take pride in their effort for Cumberland County in delivering these results.
One tool we added this year was the 10-year comparison. That's really helpful. You know, snapshots, okay. To actually look back and see how well you've done for 10 years. There's really a lot more information. I commend staff for coming up with that.
The report is very clear, very easy to understand.
No, I mean, the only thing I would just add is that, this kind of explains why we are the fastest growing county in the state of Pennsylvania. People want to locate here, people want to start and grow their businesses here, part because our taxes are relatively low, compared to some other areas of the state. Plus we have the transportation system and, excellent institutions of higher education, good local school districts, so that helps. I guess it was last week or the week before, we had this analysis done, which we asked staff to take a look at the situation, because there was this report called Makers and Takers. I don't know whether you had seen that, but in other words, it was a report that was published by a retired reporter from the Philadelphia Inquirer named Tom Farrick, who I knew when I worked over the state senate, and I don't know whether he's out working on his own. But anyway, he did this analysis county by county as to, okay, these are the counties that actually provide the funds to the state, and then these are the counties that take the funds from the state. And we're one of the makers, okay, as opposed to one of the takers. So then we also saw a story that talked about prosperous counties versus least prosperous counties in Pennsylvania. So when we compared, us, on that score, it was like flip of, even though we're not one of the big takers, we're also one of the more prosperous counties, in the state of Pennsylvania. So we kind of boiled that down to, well, we don't have as many needs here. And maybe we should be glad in the fact that we don't have as many needs here. So, but anyway, no, this is a good report. I like the fact that it's condensed, easy for the general public to understand, and it shows we're a good place to live and work and raise a family. So.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Do we have
and, what the consequences would be if those issues are not addressed, so I'll let you take it.
I got pulled from the department head, on my way back from the department head meeting and told to get up to see Judge Maslin immediately. Met Adam and Jess on the way there, and grabbed Sandy as well. We have experience what can basically only be described as a dire or catastrophic failure of the video conferencing and audio system in courtroom 1. The representative from the vendor was there. They don't know what's wrong. They don't know if they can fix it, and they don't know how much it will cost.
This is the one we just fixed. It's not.
No, that was courtroom 2. The upgrades and such that were done, yeah, that was courtroom 2. This is one of our oldest courtrooms as far as the technology installed. And at this point, he basically has microphones that will play sound out of speakers. That's it. Nothing else in the courtroom will work. There is no audio backup, there's no video conferencing, nothing. We have integrated so much technology into the courtrooms that save the county money. That with this equipment unavailable, it will literally cost us money not to have this up and running. Nor do we have the infrastructure to accommodate some of the things that we do in the courtrooms that save money. I will use an example of the video conferencing. I'm going to use 2018 just because it was the easiest to do the math on. In 2018, we saved approximately $164,000 in inmate transport costs by the Sheriff's Department by using video conferencing. Averages out to about $30,000 per judge is what we save every year doing video conferencing. No video conferencing in that courtroom, the Sheriff's Department will now need to transport those inmates for anything necessary. We use it so regularly that it's a problem. There is no audio backup of what is going on in the courtroom. So if the court reporter experiences failure of their system, we have the redundancy so that if that happens, and it has happened, they have that audio backup to be able to create a record of proceedings that we are required by law to have.
So what is it, what was authorized already? I mean, we addressed this issue.
For courtroom 1,
Didn't we undertake a comprehensive?
I was asked to get more quotes, additional quotes, and we pulled some of that together. And
Okay.
we're coming in front of you for some of it on the 22nd.
Okay, that just helps us to know where we
Yeah,
stand.
but one of the things we did, courtroom 1 has acoustical issues that go beyond the courtroom. We actually separated courtroom at 1 out because we were gonna address that because the acoustical issues have to be addressed beyond even just fixing hardware. There are probably sound panels or other things that are gonna be done, right? So that is actually separate from what we were going to treat that as a separate project because it is a different functionality other than just updating technology. Does that make sense? So, the equipment is out of date at this point. We are paying the vendor every single time they come in. The equipment is outdated. Like I said, he's not even sure they have the parts to fix, depending what is broken, if they're going to even be able to fix it. So it needs to be updated and brought up to date with the rest of the stuff. And again, kind of having a catastrophic failure, we can't just fix a few things like we can do in some of the newer courtrooms. This is pretty much a full reboot of
Roughly what was the year that last received the major?
I was looking for that before I came down here. I don't have exact details. I do know that the capital was approved in 2013. So I was not able to find the other stuff in the amount of time I had.
What I'm getting at is, do we
Yeah.
know where it stands relative to other courtrooms? Are we gonna have another courtroom fail next week?
Without continued maintenance, yes.
All right.
Not even next week. 2, 3, and 5 are fairly newish. And again, I don't have those dates. I grabbed this one, grabbed our stuff after our meeting.
Are there any updates? We've discussed this so many times, I forget where we
Yeah,
are.
it
But
runs together.
are there updates that are in the pipeline?
That's what I'm coming on Thursday, looking for updates to. 2's already done. 3, 4, 5, and 6. Bring them all up to the level of 2. So we are looking at a standard, and then again, 1 happening. We were going to address the acoustical issues, but at this point, I'm basically asking to be able to address the whole thing all at once as a sort of a separate project from bring up to date to start over.
Listen,
yes.
courtroom number 6 is empty right now.
The senior judges are using that and it's used pretty extensively. Basically, they're filling in
Does
for our
that-
6th judge.
Does that have, the possibility to be used at least temporarily?
Temporarily, yes.
Okay.
It is not.
So if we have a total breakdown of the sound system in courtroom number 1,
Right.
Judge Maslin could use courtroom number 6, correct?
He can use it when it's not being used by the senior judges. Yes. And again, they are using it pretty extensively because they're filling in for our 6th judge. In fact, he was using it this afternoon. They did not have anything scheduled this afternoon. He was able to jump in there and do a
Well,
meeting.
that's what I was thinking, I mean, just, I know it's jamming things up for a while, but if there's an alternative to no sound versus some sound.
Right, no, we have an alternative, but that alternative ends on December 31st.
I understand that.
And I'd rather not wait until, that's why we're here now, we can get
And
this.
we're working on a new courtroom to be
Yes.
all set, ready to go.
Yes, and that will be up to date basically with 2. So 2 and 7 will be up to date, and then we're asking for 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then if we can get 1 done, that will bring them all on the same level, with the hope that we can get a service and maintenance agreement going forward with all of them. We've had different vendors in the past, it's been very difficult to coordinate repairs and everything else on these when there's different vendors, different ages, different levels of technology in each courtroom going on.
Listen, you mentioned the date 2013, what was that for?
Courtroom 1, that's when I was able to pull the capital project up. That was when the capital project was approved, so I think it was done in the
So that
same year.
equipment is 6 years old. Is that a long
Yes.
time for stuff?
That is a very long time for technology. You wanna?
Yeah, our normal life cycle for computers is 5 to 7 years, and this is essentially just a different form of computer. Same thing, so the equipment being about 7 and getting older, it's going to have the same efficiencies that we would with a normal workstation, laptop, server.
So we're not just talking about an audio system then, because that's kind of what it sounded like originally. We're talking about something much more
Yeah,
sophisticated.
the main unit is essentially, it's a computer processor that takes all the ins and outs and coordinates it all, orchestrates everything. That's the component that has suffered the failure.
Do we have a regular replacement? You said that the average replacement of the life cycle. Do we have, for courtrooms, is that built into our?
Something that has this, we do need to get something on the books as far as a policy for the replacement of that, but with them being computer devices, we do need to have them life cycle.
Yeah, because, I mean, if we're putting in new, all this other audio equipment, it's not gonna matter if the source signal is dead.
Right. And we are actually not planning on installing the FTR, which is what part of this other, the 3, 4, 5, and 6
Yeah.
in courtroom 1 until the audio deficiencies are fixed. I'm not gonna put a program in that we can't even use until that issue is taken care of. Even before today, we were planning to address the deficiencies there before putting anything like that into the court.
Okay, so what's the proposed next step?
We're asking for approval to proceed with having the vendor come in and give us a plan and proceed with repairing courtroom 1, repairing and replacing anything that's needed in courtroom 1.
Just courtroom?
It's a separate project. This is going to come to you with a more detail, this is a more detailed, I have quotes and everything else for,
Which is,
reform.
which one is the newest?
Newest.
Which is the most up to date? Since we've
Courtroom?
been doing them, yes, since we've been doing.
Well, 2, but it's done.
2's done.
2's done, approved, paid for, we've got the vendor set up to come in and do that.
Okay, the remaining ones that we're planning to do.
Yes.
3, 4, 5,
6, yes.
of those, were they all done at the same time or is it
No, they
one?
were not. 3 was done at the same time as 2.
Yeah.
5 is the newest. We did them 4, 1. I'm not sure on 1 and 6. They were kind of in the same time frame because that was when the 6th judge came on board, and I don't remember all that off the top of my head. Then 5, then 2 and 3. So if you're going in order, right now because of the upgrades, 2 is most current, 3 is right after that, 5 is under that, probably 6 under that, and I would normally put 1 next, but since it's now failed out, 4, and with 1 at the end.
So your request is just for courtroom 1, not?
Right now, just courtroom 1.
Okay.
The other capital would come before you on August the 22nd regarding the
The
other.
other courtrooms, so it's 2 separate.
And they're all being done collectively? Is that part of that capital request?
On the one on
3, 4, 5, and
August,
6.
yes.
Oh,
August
oh.
22nd.
We like to do that as
So
well.
we can't just swap one out and move number one in the front of the line.
No, because the projects that we're doing in 3, 4, 5, and 6 is so that we can integrate the FTR system.
Right.
And I just don't think one is capable of having that yet. Until we fix the other deficiencies and repair the system itself, putting it in there is a waste of the program.
How much does the courtroom two cost us?
The last upgrade, $10,000. And again, all this is in here for next Thursday. The costs to fix one will be significantly higher than that, though. We are talking a reboot of the original courtroom project.
So which one was the one where we had to pay the extra $35,000 to move the console? Which courtroom was that?
I remember we did it, but I apologize, I don't remember which courtroom it was off the top of my
I thought
head.
that was one. But
We can find out.
Yeah, we can find out, I just don't know off the top of my head.
it helps us to look at the thing comprehensively, so.
So you would need that for Thursday?
Well, that's.
I don't think that would be hard to find out. I'm just trying to figure out is that the courtroom that if this is only gonna be $10,000, I hate saying only, but
No, courtroom 1 is not gonna only be 10,000.
the others are what, 10,000?
The others are, I have the total project cost, and again, I have to get this, I just got the last quote this morning,
Yeah.
and then tried to pull this together when I got pulled
Right.
to deal with that. The total project cost for 3, 4, 5, and 6, including the courtroom upgrades that are necessary to install the FTR software, the FTR software training and maintenance agreement, and the computer that will be provided by IT to run that software in the courtroom is just under $65,000. It's about and there's a change, courtroom 4 costs a little more money because it's older, they need a little more upgrades, courtroom 5 costs a little less because it's a little more up to date. So it's an average of about $10,000 per courtroom to bring them up to speed. Then 4 or 5, I don't know it off the top of my head, 4 or 5,000 for the software training and maintenance agreement for the FTR software, and then about another 1,000 or so for the workstation in the courtroom that'll run the software itself. So that 4 courtroom project will be about $65,000.
What was the $10,000?
That was how much it cost to bring courtroom 2
So
up
that's
to
what we
speed, but
spent
it
on
was
I'm just
not
trying
a
to-
catastrophic
I'm
failure.
just trying to get an idea of what we're talking about.
The other courtrooms, the original projects were around $150,000.
Are we, the question I'm trying to get at is, are we spending significantly more on one of the courtrooms than we are on the rest?
Well, to fix courtroom 1, yes, you mean as far as the upgrades in?
Well, this is why I was asking
Yeah,
about the 35 grand, that was to move something, that was just to move, that didn't include the original installation, which we did just within the last few years. So just kind of trying to get a handle on where we
Yeah,
spent all this money.
The most expensive courtroom to fix, per se, in this estimate is gonna be $12,000, and that's courtroom 6. So actually 4 isn't even the most
And
expensive.
you guys have seen you've seen their entire plan, the build-out plan, everything looks reasonable, as expected.
Sandy, you mentioned Thursday, is there something that?
This is on for Thursday.
On the workshop for.
Next Thursday.
Yes, August 22nd, that's what these are.
But the separate project of getting courtroom 1 working.
But with
is-
courtroom 1's failure now, this has come
So you want
to,
to add that to Thursday also?
I think what they're asking is for approval today. Is that correct, Melissa? My understanding that you want approval today to be able to move forward to,
No, we're not asking you to approve a contract or anything, we're asking you to proceed with knowing that this is going to be coming to you,
To getting RFP?
to getting, right, to moving forward with that.
We obviously have to fix Portland. I mean, it's
We
got
have to
to,
fix
we
it,
gotta
yeah.
get it up and running again, we can't rely on the other stopgap. So to me, the question before the commissioners is this an additional unexpected expense that we're gonna have to absorb, or is there somewhere out of the existing plan that we can pull that money from
There
there?
are other reasons, which I believe you have been briefed on, why this must be done as well, and I cannot trade one of these out for courtroom 1. There are staffing issues related to why this project has to proceed.
Yeah, my questions are more timing related. It's not that we're not gonna do those, it's
Okay,
just
so-
can we pull, is it an unexpected expense? So I'm just trying to
Courtroom
find.
one, yes.
okay,
Courtroom
pull
one is
that.
unexpected, yes.
And I'm sorry, did you say to fix courtroom one, do we have any concept of what that fix?
I don't think we're even calling this a fix anymore, they are almost going to have to
Rebuild.
start from scratch.
All right, so
Um,
rebuild would cost us what?
The 100, well, the previous courtroom project costs have been in the 150,000 range
Per?
per.
Okay, so it's.
Now,
it's-
knowing that just to
So
throw
you're
this
gonna
out
spend
there,
$150,000 that wasn't budgeted, that's why I'm asking. the
well, I
question,
didn't
can we-
expect a catastrophic failure here,
Sure,
but,
but that's why I'm asking.
yeah.
Because we still gotta make it work, so
Yeah.
is there somewhere else that we can pull it from? And just rejigger the plan, or we have to just absorb 150 grand, no question asked? It's not an unreasonable question.
No, it's not unreasonable.
But I think what they're saying is they need to have these upgrades, right?
We have to have these upgrades in the other courtrooms in order for court to continue and be able to maintain a record in those courtrooms. Without the upgrades in the other 4 courtrooms, I cannot install FTR, and FTR is becoming absolutely necessary due to the loss of court reports statewide. I mean, we are not the, by the way, we are not the only county having this problem. Counties around us cannot fill their court reporter positions.
Was it 150,000 you talked about, that include FTR for
No.
courtroom one?
No.
Okay.
Now, the only thing
How much
with,
then are we talking about?
the FTR itself is a software program and a computer from IT. I think the computer plus FTR is about $6,000.
And that's the replacement for the court reporters?
Yes.
The FTR.
Yes, so that's about 6,000, but that's actually a small part of this. The problem is getting the courtroom to the technological level
Right.
that the software works in the courtroom.
Was courtroom one going to work for the FTR?
That's why we're not installing FTR until we know that we fixed all the problems.
But we have to get courtroom up and running.
We gotta meet the minimal level of functionality.
Right, before I'm gonna spend another $6,000 to
Right.
put.
Well, let's
Now-
focus on getting
Right.
functionality.
Now, courtroom one, I'm saying $150,000, that's what it costs to do the other courts. But that included maintenance, having to run lines under the carpet, those conduits are already done. I'm telling you, based on what the other courtrooms cost, some of that work is already there, so that may bring that down, but I wanna be,
So let's be generous and say $30,000 off of that. And that's probably an example.
I'm not gonna say that, you can say that if you want, but I'm not
For
gonna.
illustration purposes, let's say it's 120. We're still
Okay.
coming up with 120 that's not planned for.
Yeah.
Okay, so my question remains, is there somewhere else, and I don't know who to look to for that, whether it's Adam, you guys have any suggestions on the different rollout plan for the upgrades? Or if we talk to John Locke, but it's just because we have nice presentations, not saying we're good financial shape. doesn't
Well,
mean-
not the upgrades, because they don't have to do that.
No,
This part, no, John is not involved, because they don't have to do
but
that.
he was originally.
Yes, in the original courtroom, actively involved.
Sandy, Keith, have anything pertinent to say about this situation? We can make a motion to proceed with you guys looking forward. It does not cap us at any price
No,
or
Keith
commit us
just,
to any amount of money.
the other thing Keith mentioned in the meeting was that, we have to get courtroom run up and running, it's like, it's imperative, that's, and, he didn't have anything negative to say, it's just one of these things that happen with technology and, these are unexpected expenses.
Board is willing, let's make a motion to proceed as such.
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any questions or comments on the
Yeah, I
motion?
do have one. So this is a purchase of equipment. I would think it would have to be bid.
They are, the vendors are co-stars, and we are trying to create a system rather than bidding. Bidding is sort of what got us in this trouble in the first place. We ended up with different vendors in different courtrooms. We are trying to get one consistent vendor so that we can get on a regular maintenance and upgrade, and that also maybe parts are interchangeable and, am I saying that right?
Yeah,
Sorry,
and
I'm
the
not
goal
that
is
person.
the unified approach for staff training and ease of use as well, because today it's a struggle. Everybody does it different.
Every
Because
courtroom is set up.
just because a vendor is on CoStars doesn't necessarily mean we're getting the best price, okay? So, in terms of the vendor, I know we had trouble with one of the previous vendors. Okay, do we now feel comfortable with whoever we have now?
Yes.
Was the previous vendor a CoStarz vendor?
That was a little bit.
It
No, that
low
was
bid?
low bid.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, any other comments? Yes.
CoStar is a product, they have products within the CoStar, but not everything they have would necessarily be CoStar. So you have to be a little careful.
Yeah, we work with Keith very closely on that and IT and make sure that I don't try to do that. We work with them.
Thank you. Any other comments? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
And the only comment on that post of that is that we need to still ask the question, are we forced to go to contingency for this, or is there somewhere we can go from? So I hope we get more information before the final decisions.
Yeah.
So I will get in touch with the vendor then and have them come in and at least start evaluation and everything for what's gonna need to be done. That we will have a better, figure for you as well. I probably will not have that by Thursday, but I will try to get in as quickly as can. And thank you very much. I appreciate you taking time. We obviously did not anticipate this.
In the meantime, is Judge Madison able to use courtroom one at all, or no?
It depends what kind of hearing it is and what they're gonna need to do. We will probably move him to 6 as much as possible, but it may not always be available. But we will get him taken care of. But we're gonna try and move as quickly as we can here, because this is, we need that courtroom by the end of December, because we're gonna potentially have the 7 judges, and there's not gonna be any extra space to overflow into.
Well, I know, but I'm also thinking in terms of, I don't know how long this is gonna take, right? And, you know, I don't know where we are. I know that we got a report today on, an updated report on the courtroom down on the first floor. I mean, it sounds like that's moving along. I mean, it could be that courtroom's ready before we get this.
And if that's possible, that would solve some problems, but again, only till the end of this year.
Understand?
When did this go ahead?
I got told to report upstairs ASAP. Do you know
right.
when the problem started?
I believe it was today or yesterday.
All right, so this is.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That's why it became urgent need.
Yeah. Thank you.
So I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah. We'll get it
See you on
taken care
Thursday.
of. Do we have any other business?